Disclaimer: this video has been re-uploaded to decrease the loud music and to improve the quality. Enjoy! Hey guys, it's the Quinn here and I'm back with another video in this series, and this may very well be the last video in this series. So in this video, we'll be running queries and creating reports. And before we get started in this video, I want to tell you guys that I am really excited and happy about the support we've been getting on these videos, and I want you to keep the comments coming and be sure to subscribe and like the videos to keep me encouraged and to keep me going. So let's get right into it. Let's start with queries. A query is something that you can run based on different tables. It can give you answers to questions, perform calculations, combine data from different tables, as well as add, deleting, and changing data from a database. So let's get right into creating our query today. Okay, so we're still using the little database that we have been using from the start of this series. We will be creating a query today on the deliveries that were not delivered. So remember, we had a little status column. So this query will be showing the orders in which I did not check that checkbox in the status column. So that means the deliveries were undelivered. Okay, so I have my database open and I'm currently in my objects list. Now, to create a query, first thing you want to do is to go up into the menu. So you press your Alt.
Ribbon tabs tab control expanded. Home tab selected Alt, H2 of 6.
Then right arrow to your Create tab, or you could have just used the keystroke Alt plus C.
Create tab selected Alt, C3 of 6.
Then I'm gonna tab until I hear Query Design.
Create grouping, templates grouping. Application parts collapse insert or create portions of it. Tables grouping. Table button create a new. Table design button create a new. SharePoint lists collapsed Alt. Queries grouping. Query wizard. Query design button create a new. Blank query in design view. You can then use the show table dialog box to add tables or queries to the query design. Alt C QD.
And there it is. Then we'll press enter on this.
Show table dialog. List box list.
Okay, remember when we were creating relationships when it lists the different tables? Now this is exactly what it does here as well. It lists the different tables in your database. And you're currently selected on a table, but it doesn't announce to you which table you're currently selected on. Now in order to create our query, we will need to add the tables that we will require in the query. So let me down arrow and up arrow again to hear which table I'm selected on.
Order, list box list. Customers.
Okay, so I was selected on customers. So I want to add this table, so I would tab to the add button.
Add button Alt plus A.
Then press enter. Now that is added. So I would shift tab back up to the list of tables.
List box list. Customers.
And down arrow to the other table that I want, which is the orders table.
List box list. Orders.
Then I would tap to the add button.
Add button Alt plus A.
And press enter. Now I'm finished selecting all the tables that I want. So I'm on the add button now. So I'll tab away.
Close button Alt plus C.
And enter on close.
Grid table. Row 1 row. Collapsed.
Okay, so let me explain this to you. What Access does now is places us in a design view where we'll be able to choose our different field names from the different tables that you want in the query, as well as setting different criteria for them. Or we can show it or we can hide it. For this query, like say at the end of the month, I want to know all of the orders that I did not deliver because I need to deliver them to my customers or else they will be unsatisfied. So let's see the different fields that I would need. The first field that I would need is possibly my order ID, so I can identify which order it was. This first row that we're selected in this first row, let me do insert plus tab, let you hear it.
Collapsed cell, collapsed focused.
This is where we will be able to choose the field that we want to add in this query. So the first row in each column has a collapse box where you can add another field in which you want in the query. But first, remember it's two different tables. So we would need to choose the table first so that we can get the list of fields for that table to add. So I want to add order ID, but I need to make sure that it's selecting from the orders table. So if I down arrow,
row 3 row, collapsed.
You will hear row 3. Now what row 3 has is where you can choose the table in which the fields will be listed from. So if I use my Alt plus down arrow to open the collapse box, then I would down arrow once, then use my insert plus tab to let you hear what I'm selected on.
Customers dropped cell, customers dropped focused.
It's not the customers table is what I want. So I would down arrow to orders. Then I'll do insert plus tab.
Orders dropped cell, orders dropped focused.
And that is what I want. Now I want the field order ID from this orders table that I've selected. So I would press my tab key right here.
Edit blank. Grid table. Row 3 row. Collapsed.
Now, once you press tab, it will shift you over into the other column. But I'm not finished dealing with this column yet. So I'll press my left arrow to go back over into that column.
Orders collapsed.
Then I'll press up arrow to go up into the row where I would select the field name.
Row 1 row. Collapsed.
Now, here I said I wanted order ID. So I'll use my Alt plus down arrow to open this menu. Then press my down arrow once. Then insert plus tab.
Orders dot star dropped cell, orders dot star dropped focused.
Okay, so that orders dot star is the name of the table. So it's gonna list the names of the fields of this table right under this. So let me press my down arrow, then insert plus tab again.
Order I dropped cell, order I dropped focused.
Okay, and there is what I want, order ID. I don't know why it kind of cut off the D, but yes, it's order ID, and that's what I want for this field. So I have it in, I can just tab away.
Collapsed.
Alright, so now I'm in the next column, and what I would want here is the customer ID. So I'm going to assume that my customers table is already selected down below, since it would be the first table in the list. So I will use my Alt plus down arrow to open this, then down arrow once, then insert plus tab.
Customers dot star dropped cell, customers dot star dropped focused.
Down arrow again, insert plus tab.
Customer I dropped cell, customer I dropped focused.
I don't know why it keeps cutting off the D, but yes, that's customer ID, and that's what I need. Then I'll tab to my next column.
Collapsed.
Okay, so I'm choosing my next field. I have their order ID and I have their customer ID. Now, what I would need to know is their address, because if I didn't deliver it to them, I would want it to list their address so I could just go there and deliver it to them. So let me do Alt plus down arrow, then down arrow, and insert tab until I get to address.
Customers dot star drop cell, customers dot customer I drop, customers dot customer name drop cell, customers dot address drop cell, customers dot address drop focused.
Then I can tab away.
Collapsed.
Now I would also need their phone number to call them and apologize for the inconvenience and to tell them that their delivery is coming. So I'll do the same to get my phone number right here.
Customers dot star drop cell, customers dot customer I drop, customers dot customer name drop, customers dot address drop, customers dot email drop cell, customers dot email dropped focused, customers dot phone number dropped cell, customers dot phone number dropped focused.
And there you go. Then I'll tab away.
Collapsed.
Lastly, the field that I would need next is the status field, because remember, I'm doing a query based on those who weren't delivered to, so I would need the status column. So first I would have to go down to the next row to change it to the orders table, because that field was in the orders table. So down arrow,
row 3 row, collapsed.
Then Alt plus down arrow, then down arrow once, insert plus tab.
Customers dropped cell, customers dropped focused.
Down arrow again, insert plus tab.
Orders dropped cell, orders dropped focused.
Then I can tab away.
Edit blank. Grid table. Row 3 row. Collapsed.
But then I would have to left arrow back over to that column.
Orders collapsed.
And up arrow back up to where I choose the field.
Row 1 row. Collapsed.
Alright. So now I would do the same thing here, Alt plus down arrow and insert tab until I get my status field.
Order I dropped cell, order. Customer I dropped. Item amount dropped. Total amount dropped cell, total amount dropped focused. Order date dropped cell, order date dropped focused. Status dropped cell, status dropped focused.
And then I can tab away here.
Collapsed.
But wait, I'm not finished with this column yet, so let me left arrow back over to it.
Status collapsed.
Remember, I said the query is based on if it was delivered or not delivered. So it's whether the checkbox was checked or if it was not checked. So I would have to put in a criteria for this field. Let me down arrow.
Row 3 row. Orders collapsed.
Remember, so row 1 has in the field names. Row 3 has in the names of the tables. If I down arrow one more time.
Row 6 row. Collapsed.
Row 6 in the query design is where you can choose your sorting option. So you can choose to sort the query by a field, like say ascending order or descending order, and you will open the collapse box by using the same Alt plus down arrow. But we won't be sorting in this tutorial, but it's just for you to know. Now let's down arrow again.
Grid table. Row 7 row. checked checkbox, checked checkbox.
Now row 7, where you see this checkbox, this is where you determine if the field should be shown or it should be hidden. So let's down arrow again.
Edit blank. Grid table. Row 11 row. Cell.
Here is row 11. This is the very critical row that we need because this is where you will enter any criteria that you need for your field. Now, remember it was a yes or no data type for the status in which we had a checkbox. So we want the options that were not checked. So those would be the no options. So right here in the criteria, we would type equals no. So your equal sign
Equals.
Then NO.
N-O.
And we're finished and it's time to save our query. But I want to make sure that I note to you, please remember that every column in this query design has options to do with the field which you have selected in row 1. So remember, if I have order ID selected in row 1, then if I down arrow in that same column, row 3 would have the table name. And if I down arrow in that same column, row 6 would have the sorting options. And if I down arrow in that same column again, row 7 would have the show or hide. And if I down arrow again, row 11 would have where you put your criteria. Now I can save this query. So I would use my Ctrl+S.
Save as dialog. Query name : edit Alt plus N selected query 1.
Now I'm going to call this query undelivered.
U-N-D-E-L-I-V-E-R-E-D.
Then I can just click enter.
Grid table. Row 11 row not selected. Equals no.
Then I'm going to take the query out of design view and put it into datasheet view so that we can see what the results of the query would be. So press your Alt.
Ribbon tabs tab control expanded. Query tools grouping. Design tab selected Alt Y JQ 7 of 7.
Then tab.
Design grouping. Results grouping. View split button collapsed view Alt JQ W.
Then Alt plus down arrow.
Datasheet view not checked Alt JQ W H.
Then enter.
To edit to.
And it brings me in my datasheet view. Now I can see the orders that were undelivered. So let me right arrow and go through these results that the query did for me.
Grid table. Row 1 row not selected. Row 1, column customer ID, 1TQ.
So you see the fields in the order that we did it. You had the order ID, now here's the customer ID. Then
row 1, column address, Kingston 5.
That's the person's address. Then
row 1, column phone number, 876-363-4634, 876-363-4634.
Then right arrow again.
Grid table. Row 1 row not selected. Row 1, column status, unchecked checkbox.
And there you go. It shows the one with the unchecked checkbox. And if I should down arrow, you would see that it would only show the orders with the unchecked checkbox.
Row 2 row 2, column status, unchecked checkbox. Row 3 row 3, column status, unchecked checkbox.
Okay, now let me go to Control Home again.
To edit to. Grid table. Row 1 row 1, column order ID, 22.
So I'm back to the first cell in my table. Now there's something important that I must note to you. Say after I delivered to one person from out of this list, that means that they no longer belong in this query that I have created. So I would therefore go into my orders table and check that checkbox. Now let me close this query first. So let me keep note that the person with the order ID 2 had a delivery that was undelivered. So let me close this query. So Ctrl+F4.
Orders grouping expanded. Order form button order form.
Now let me find my orders table. So let me up arrow.
Undelivered button undelivered.
And as you can see, the query is placed under the orders grouping because the orders table is a part of the query. So up arrow again.
Orders : table button orders.
Then press enter.
1 edit 1.
Now I want to go and check the checkbox for order 2 because I had made this delivery to him now.
Grid table. Row 2 row 2, column order ID, 22.
Alright, so let me right arrow over to the status column.
1TQ edit 1, 8 edit 8, $1,000, 6/grid. Grid table. Row 2 row not selected. Row 2, column status, unchecked checkbox.
Now let me check it with my spacebar.
Space.
Let me left arrow and right arrow back over to let you see that it's checked.
Grid table. Row 2 row not selected. Row 2, column status, Checked checkbox, checked checkbox.
And there you go, it's checked. Now let me save this table. So Ctrl+S, then let me close it with Ctrl+F4.
Orders grouping expanded. Orders : table button orders.
Now let me go back to the query to let you see that the query automatically updates itself. So down arrow.
Undelivered button undelivered.
Now press enter.
For edit 4.
And you realize the 2 is gone. So the order with the order ID 2, it's gone because I checked the checkbox in the orders table. And I can always close this query again by doing Ctrl+F4.
Orders grouping expanded.
And remember, you can always go in and change your query design by going up into the menu, tabbing to view, then Alt+ down arrow, and then you change it to your design view. But that is it for queries. Now let's get right into reports. So a report is something that you would use to display data. So it's like a nice little layout that you'd use to display your information, like a little printout or so, like say a report at the end of the month. So I want to create a report for the end of the month for the amount of customers that I did not deliver to, because I want to add that into my file. So I'll be creating a report of that undelivered query that we created. So I have my database open. First, I would need to look for that query that I created. So I'm in my table list right now. So let me down arrow.
Order form button order form.
Okay, so it's above this. So let me up arrow again.
Undelivered button undelivered.
Then I'll enter to open my query.
For edit 4.
Alright, so in order to create a report based on this query, first you'd use your Alt key.
Ribbon tabs tab control expanded. Home tab selected Alt, H2 of 6.
Right arrow to create.
Create tab selected Alt, C3 of 6.
Or you could have used Alt C. Then you tab until you hear report.
Create grouping. Templates group, tables grouping, table design, SharePoint lit, queries group, query design, forms group, form design, blank form but, form wizard but, navigation, more forms, reports grouping. Report button create a basic report of the data in the current query or table, to which you can add features such as groups or totals. Alt, C, RN.
And then I would press my enter.
Undelivered.
And there we go, the report has been created. And now you can print out this form, add it to your files for the end of that period or for whatever you created the report for. But now I can save it by using Ctrl+S.
Save as dialog. Report name : edit Alt+N selected undelivered.
Then I will call it undelivered monthly report.
UNDELIVERED space MONTHLY space REPORT.
Then press enter.
Undelivered monthly report pane focused.
And there it is, that's it, and I'm hoping this is the last video for the series. That's it guys, for this series I've taught you guys how to create tables from scratch. I taught you around the Access database, I taught you how to import tables, how to create relationships, forms, different keystrokes, and also how to create queries and reports. If there's anything else that I figure out in this Access database, I'll be sure to share the knowledge with you. But this looks like the end of the series for now. Thanks guys again for watching. For those who want to access a transcript for this video, you can visit my website. The link will be down below in the description. And you can use the quick links on the videos page in order to get to the Access series quickly.